What's good, YouTube? It's Rick the Fox Kid here. As you can see, I'm once again back at my house. Spring break right now just started today, so yeah, spring break, it's a fun time. So yeah, in a week on the 24th, the Maryland Regional is going to be held in Frederick, Maryland, and I plan on going up there with a couple of my friends. One of them is the Tempest CFV. And yeah, so I've done some updates to my Noble Rabbit deck, and I thought I'd share them with you guys, just because I feel like they're kind of minor, but at the same time they're significant enough that I should at least say it again. I really am currently debating taking this to the regional. It's between this deck and Wind Up, because my team does have the pieces to make a Wind Up deck. So I want to test that tomorrow and see which one I prefer. Feeling I'm going to prefer this more, so I am leaning towards the Noble Rabbit deck, but I'm open to test out Wind Up and see how it goes, because the deck is pretty fun and toolboxy. So yeah, let's get into this. I'm going to mix things up a little bit this time around. I know that my videos tend to run really long, so I'm going to show the entire deck first. I'm going to show the entire main deck first, and then explain it. That way, if people just want to see the deck list, then boom, you get the deck list. You can stop watching the video at like whatever 3 minutes or whatever, and then I can lose my respect for you because you're not patient enough to see me explain how the deck works. But you know, some people are like that, and they only want to see the deck list and not actually understand how the deck works. So I'll go with it. The reason my videos take so long is because I feel like the way I see it is that if I'm putting it on YouTube, I'm openly giving the entire Yu-Gi-Oh community permission to use this deck. And at the same time, I'm grabbing credit for it because just look at the timestamp. This shows I made the deck first. But at the same time, I feel like I want the deck to be used right if it's going to be used by people on the internet, in which case I might as well explain it because I don't want to see a deck that I made running around and being used wrong. So that's why I go in depth in it, but you know, some people don't like that, so whatever. Okay, so monsters, there's 15 of them now. Yeah, it's a little less than before, but whatever. 3 Sparkman, sorry, glare. 3 Artorias, 3 Gawain, 2 Thrasher, drop to 2, I'll explain that later, 2 Rabbit, and 2 Torguide. It's a very, very simple monster lineup. And then, for the spells, I believe there are 11 of them? 11, 10, something like that. Dark Hole, Heavy Storm, Monster Reborn, so like the trio. 2 Forbidden Lance, very good. 2 MST in the main. Rhoda, and the newest addition is Miracle Fusion. Once again, I'll get into that in a minute. How many was that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, it was 10. So there's 15 monsters, 10 spells, and 15 traps. And lastly, the trap cards, like I said, 15. Trap lineup's incredibly straightforward. 2 Bottomless, 2 Deep Prison, 2 Fiendish Chain, 2 Mirror Force, Solemn Warning, 2 Macrocosmos, 2 Torrential, and Starlight Road. Yeah. I guess before I explain the main deck, I'll just show my extra deck and my side deck. Yeah. 1 Abyss Dweller, 1 Blade Armor Ninja, Gaga Cowboy, Heroic Champion Excalibur, Maestroke, Shockmaster, Papal Operative, Starleash Paladinimo. Those are the rank 4s. Rank 3s are Leviair, Leviathan Dragon, Tempo, Zen Mains, and then Stardust for Starlight Road, and 2 Shinings for Miracle Fusion. And side deck. This is a little off from what I'm planning it to be, but whatever. 2 Vanisher of the Radiance, 2 Fossil Dyna, 2 Thunder King. This is supposed to be 2 level limit area Bs. Somehow, out of like the bajillions of tins of commons I have, I could only find 1 level limit area B, so I'm going to get one from a friend of mine right before the regionals. So for now, it's 1 level limit area B, but it will be 2. 2 Messenger of Peace, the last MST. This is my placeholder for level limit area B. If by some sheer unlucky turn of events I can't get another level limit area B, 1 Dust Tornado, 2 Mind Crush, and 2 Soul Drain. Okay, now that I've shown the entire deck list in 5 minutes, I will actually explain it for the people who wish to continue watching. If you wish to continue watching and see my explanations, then
Thank you, I respect you. If you wish to just quit now because you've seen the deck list, then please don't misuse my deck. But if you do, then I'm gonna kill you. But not really. So, I'll go in depth with the monsters. The monster lineup, like I said, is extremely straightforward. It's just the 3 Spark. That's not a Sparkman. Ah, it's a Sparkman. Okay. So the 3 Sparkman, 3 Artorigus, 3 Gawain. 3 Gawain. My deck's being a jerk right now. 3 Gawain. 2 Thrasher, Rabbit, and Torguide. So in the last version, I believe I also had Spirit Reapers in the main, I think. Or something like that. Spirit Reaper or Grand Mole. Yeah, I think it was Spirit Reapers. Took those out and initially sided them, and then like I just took them out of the side also just when I was making some changes to my side deck that I want to test out. Just because I didn't have the space for them. The biggest thing that's probably different from the last version is only 2 Photon Thrasher instead of 3. I decided to do that because I was trying to fit more cards in the deck just to change things up, and I was thinking, well, what in here can I still remove? And I realized it's like I was looking at Photon Thrasher and I was like, 3 is nice, but it really clogs hands at times just because if you have a monster on the field, you can't even summon Photon Thrasher, so it's not even worth doing. And it's like there's just too many instances where I had a Photon Thrasher in my hand that was dead, so I was like, if I drop it to 2, maybe it'll make things better, and it did. It's like I still get it dead sometimes, but it's like it's not so detrimental like to the way that the deck works. I mean, 2 Photon Thrasher is probably better than 3. But yeah, the entire deck, this is the monster line. It looks really similar to Dino Rabbit because you got the normal monsters, you got the Rabbit, the Torguide, the extra support, and those 2 things right there. Yeah. The thing is that this is a lot more consistent and toolboxy than Dino Rabbit. Dino Rabbit, like, they drop Logia, they drop Dolka, and that's like all they can do because they're Dino Rabbit and they're dumb. But this is like it's consistent because I don't even need Rabbit to go off. Like I feel like Dino Rabbit either needs Goaba and Forbidden Lance or Rabbit to like explode. For this, all I need is a normal monster and a Gawain, Photon Thrasher and any monster, Rabbit, and it's just like, and there's so many ways I can do Shockmaster. If I open like Thrasher, Sparkman, Gawain, or if I open Sparkman and 2 Gawain, or if I even just open Rabbit Gawain or Rabbit Thrasher, it's just so many ways I can make a turn 1 Shockmaster, and that puts you so far in the lead. It's just your opponent doesn't really know how to, like, there's really not much of a way they can react to a turn 1 Shockmaster, especially if you can back it up with the back row. So yeah, that's how that works. I explained why Sparkman in the last 2 times I've done a Noble Knight deck. It's because he's the only like good level. He's the only good Light Warrior besides Noble Knight Artorigus. Was considering Alexandrite Dragon just because it has 2,000 attack, so it's good for beat sticking. Honestly, I think I just still prefer the fact that Sparkman's a warrior, so that's why I still prefer Sparkman. And Sparkman also is related to Miracle Fusion, which I'll get into when I'm explaining spells. So yeah, that's the monster lineup. As for the spells are incredibly straightforward because really there's not much Rabbit decks have to do in terms of spells. Don't have to explain the big 3, they're always in every deck. Same with double MST. I feel triple would be dead too much, so, and I just don't have the space for it, so yeah, I like double in the main and 1 in the side. Rhoda, it's a warrior deck, so yeah, that's obvious. Forbidden Lance is way too freaking good this format. Just with warning at 1, this thing can get around just about every back row aside from the 2 Solemns that are still in the game, but that's it. And it does so much. It makes sure your plays go off, weakens your opponent's monsters, protects your monsters that are already in the field if you're pushing for games. Just Lance is so freaking good in this format. And it's just, honestly, if you want my opinion, Lance should be mained at least 2 in every single deck this format. That is my honest opinion. Lance is just that good. So, and at least 2. If you can fit 3, then by all means do it. But I've seen most people doing 2. There are some instances where Lance isn't that great, but yeah. And the biggest addition is Miracle Fusion. When I was testing, I realized, I make Sparkman a lot because usually if I go a Rabbit play, I'm gonna grab Sparkman, or if I have Rhoda and Gawain in my hand, I'm gonna grab Sparkman because I'd rather draw Artorigus than Sparkman. Ideally, I wouldn't draw either, but there are 6 normal monsters in the deck. I'm gonna draw one of them. So I was like, well, I always search for Sparkman because he has less attack than Artorgus, so obviously I don't want to draw him later in the game, so I'm going to get him out of my deck. And I realized, well, with how often I spit out Sparkman, it's just like, well, there's always going to be an Elemental Hero in my graveyard, and I run a lot of light monsters, so why not run Elemental Hero the Shining? So I was like, I should test this idea, and I tested it, and it works really well. If I'm like falling behind and I just need like an explosive play, or if I need a top deck and I top Miracle Fusion, I go off because that's a 3200 Shining if you drop if you banish 2 Sparkman. And the better thing is, like, if you play Miracle Fusion, you banish 2 Sparkman and get Shining, and then Shining gets destroyed, you put the 2 Sparkman back in your hand, and you can use him for Gawain plays, Thrasher plays, or hell, you could play one of the Sparkmans and activate Miracle Fusion with the Sparkman and the Shining that got destroyed and make the second Shining. So, yeah, Miracle Fusion is a lot better in this deck than I thought it would be, which is why it wasn't initially in the deck in the first place, also because I didn't have any. I'm actually borrowing these from my friend, so, yeah. But yeah, Miracle Fusion is really good. It just gives the deck another option to do. And some people might think, well, if you're running Macrocosmos, then why would you run Miracle Fusion if it relies on the graveyard? Well, if you're going to use that logic, then why am I running Monster Reborn, and why did Dino Rabbit run Sang in last format? I mean, those are both shut down by Macro. Just, you're not always going to have Macrocosmos, so it doesn't hurt to have it. And also, if you open with a Sparkman play and you're going second, you can like make an Xyz monster, detach the Sparkman so it's in the graveyard, do your stuff, and then set Macrocosmos. And then after you activate Macrocosmos, yeah, everything's gonna get banished, but now you have Sparkman in your graveyard. And if you went into Paladino or Excalibur, we have 2 Sparkman in your graveyard. So it's, yeah, still stuff. At the same time, Miracle Fusion isn't necessary to the deck, so I do side it out a lot if I need the room for side decking. Yeah, Miracle Fusion is usually the first thing to go. So yeah, that's the spells. As for the traps, I really hope I don't have to explain most of this. I mean, it's what I would call most of it's what I would call the standard 13, 12, something, the standard 12 traps this format, which are 2 Bottomless, 2 Deep Prison, 2 Fiendish Chain, 2 Mirror Force, 2 Solemn, 2 Torrential. Like, I call those the standard 12 because unless you're running Mermail or you just really don't have the room, you best be running all of these. Just cause, funny thing is that just so much back row is good this format, just because like they're good in the late game when you really need to keep the pace going. It's just the only deck that really doesn't need that is Mermail. So it's like most like Rabbit runs this back row, Wind Up runs this back row. Like my Wind Up back row and my Rabbit back row are almost the exact same. The only difference is in Wind Up I don't do Macrocosmos. I don't think I do Starlight Road either, but that's just because I don't have room in the expert deck for Stardust. And this is like in Fire Fist, you see most of this. I know you might not see Mirror Force, you might not see Fiendish Chain, but usually you do. Maybe not Torrential, but it's like you usually see most of these in most main decks now. So those are just a standard 11 that are just good for just about every deck. Macrocosmos, it's a Rabbit deck. We can run Macrocosmos, it screws up the other decks. And Starlight Road, Starlight Road is not really just that I activate it often, because I actually 9 times out of 10 don't activate Starlight Road. It's just that the mentality that Starlight Road brings. Like if I open, or if I have Starlight Road in my hand, I can say, well, I can set all my back row safely because I don't expect to activate Starlight Road. But if they activate Heavy Storm, then I can do Starlight Road. Although it's also just the mentality I am safe to set these. And if my opponent's smart, they won't activate Heavy Storm because they're like, oh, there must be a Starlight Road down there. But at the same time, like, just the fact that it's there gives me that safe mentality that I can set all this back row and nothing bad will happen to it. Unless they open like triple MST, at which point I'm kind of more concerned by the fact that they open triple MST, because that means they only have 3 other cards to work with, so that's probably still bad for them. Yeah. So I like Starlight Road mainly because of the mentality that it brings into the match, kind of like what Heavy Storm does to the entire meta. If Heavy Storm's legal and people don't set massive back row. So it's not that Heavy Storm is a stupid good card. Well, it is a stupid good card, but it's just the mentality that it brings completely changes the way the game is played. Alright, extra deck. Extra deck was actually really hard to do, just because because of the Shining, because of Stardust, I had to cut out so many cards. Like, you notice, like, there's only 4 rank 3s, and that's understandable because my only level 3 is Tour Guide. But it's like, there's no Giga Brilliant, which I usually didn't run Giga Brilliant anyway, but you also see in here, there's no Acid Golem anymore, just because I couldn't fit it. And honestly, many instances where I was like, I wish I could do Acid Golem, and all those instances, or at least most of them, I could also, well, I could do Zenmains instead, and it's a similar effect. So, Acid Golem is not sorely missed. And then this was one that I just really, it just bugs me, is that in the rank 4 lineup, there's no Utopia. It's just, I couldn't fit Utopia, and it's like, I was like, I need to get rid of something from this extra deck, and I got a lot of rank 4, so I might as well get rid of the one that I feel is going to be least useful. So I narrowed it down. I was like, well, Blade Armor, Excalibur, and Paladynamo are staying because they are the things that are, they're the core of my deck, because these are the 3 extra deck monsters that most decks can't run, but I can because I have lights and I have warriors. So I'm going to keep all these. By the way, Paladynamo is freaking amazing. He does so much. He's a card trooper. Like, when he's destroyed, he negates. He just too good. So I was like, those are staying in. And then I was like, well, Shockmaster's the other core of my deck because I summon him so easily, so he's staying in. And then Abyss Dweller is the middle finger to Dark Worlds and Atlantean, so that's staying in. I don't like siding extra deck cards because if I'm siding and I switch something with my extra deck, they're like, oh, well, I'm a Mermaid player, that must be Abyss Dweller, or like, oh, I'm a Machine player, that must be Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon. So I don't like siding in extra deck cards. It's just, ugh. And then I narrowed it down to these 3, and I was like, well, and there was Utopia in here also, so I was like, Photon Papillopera is good for if they're trying to defend and just flip them up, so Photon Papillopera is awesome. My Stroke is My Stroke. Like, if there's any rank 4 that should always be played, like, if you can easily make rank 4s, it's My Stroke, just because it's so much utility. So it was down to Gaga Cowboy and Utopia, and I ended up picking Gaga Cowboy over Utopia because Cowboy just, like, he can run over things if he has to because he's effective with 3,000 when he attacks. He can burn, like, for game if they're below 800. I actually do that a lot. Like, I have burned people with Cowboy for game so many times. So, yeah. Yeah, and the Utopia, I mean, he negates and he's a 2,500 beat stick, but that's about it. There's not really much more to Utopia, so that's why I did that. And as for the side deck, 2 Banisher screws up Mermail and anything that relies on the graveyard. I wouldn't use it against Fire Fist just because it's too easy for them to run over it. But yeah, Mermail, the only thing that can kill it is it's Spike, and Spike just crashes into it. So that still sets them back. Fossil Diamond is probably the one I'm most iffy on, just because, like, with all this, like, against windups and against Mermail, theoretically, this could, like, screw them over really badly, especially if I can protect it. But I'm still not entirely sure how I feel about it. I might take it out eventually. 2 Thunder King's Thunder King. Area B, because my main attacking force is Xyz monsters, Area B works really well. The only deck of the 4, the only one that it really doesn't shut down terribly is probably Windup. It doesn't do a lot to down a rabbit, but it does enough to, like, hurt them because it stops them from using Guaiba, which means they're pretty much reduced to getting 2 dinosaurs on the field or drawing rabbit. So that's why I like Area B. Messenger Piece is a similar situation because it's like this is better suited for, like, against windups because windups run all level 3, so Area B is not gonna do shit to them. But Messenger Piece does stop their monsters from actually attacking, and I actually have a control over Messenger Piece, so if I draw and see I can go off, well, now I can kill Piece, that way I can actually attack. MST, if you don't main 3 side with any that you don't main, that's standard rule. Dust Tornado, that's, like I said, that's filler for level 1 Area B, but it is nice to have. Mind Crush, because so many decks search this format, Wind Up searches with Factory, what's its face? Mermail. It's not Mermail searches with Dragoons, and also they act like all their level 7s activate in their hand. At which point you can call Mind Crush and call the name of the whatever they call it and then drop it. Or if they're still running the Janix version for whatever reason, and they activate Allure of Darkness, and like, oh, they must have a controller in their hand and flip. Mind Crushing Call Giants controller. Watch as they cry as they drop every card in their hand, but I don't expect that to be as common because there's no Gen X Mermail isn't as popular anymore. And then Fire Fist, they search with all like their tankies and crap, so that's what makes that good. And then doesn't really hit down a rabbit. And when Prophecy comes out, it's like they search with like Divine Judgment and stuff. Yeah. Also, when Lord Tracking on Galaxy drops, I'm gonna put at least one Droll and Lockbird in here because I did find one. So if I can somehow get another one, but yeah. And Soul Drain. This is pretty much it. Looks at Mermail and says you lose. This is you play that on Mermail, they can't do anything. Especially if you have it with Macrocosmos at the same time, then they really can't do anything. So yeah, I was testing against Mermail, and 2 games I managed to get out, or no, one of these I got Soul Drain, Macrocosmos, and Level Limit Area B all out at the same time, and that game went on for so long because I just could not do anything. So yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's my explanation for how the deck works. I honestly feel since playing this deck, I've improved as a player a lot just because I think more. Like I think my play through more, like just more because with Lightsworn and Casper, the decks are really simple, so there's really not much I can do. So I can't think as far ahead. With this one, I need to think far ahead and calculate and like do what I need to do, and I feel that's actually improving my plays a lot because I looked back at the duel I had with AC Lins sometime in August that's on his channel where I was using Lightsworn and he was running Darkwood, and I was just watching myself play and I was like, damn, I am misplaying a lot, and like I would have done this instead of that and this instead of that, and I realized, well, it's only been about 7 months, but I have improved a lot just because I've tried different decks. So that's what I really like about this. It's helping me think outside the box that like Lightsworn and Chaos Dragon couldn't do. Like I still love Lightsworn to death, but I'm not gonna lie, it's a really simple deck. And then that's also why I'm considering doing Windup, because Windup they can do so many things, and you have to see all of these possibilities. That way, if something goes wrong, or if there's multiple options you can do, you can pick the right option, or just pick an option that is good, and then go with it. So yeah, in terms of matchups, I tested this version of the deck just recently against the 4 core decks, which are Mermail, Fire Fist, Windup, Dino Rabbit. Against Mermail, it's difficult, especially in game 1. I don't expect to win game 1, but at the same time, I have enough to side against them game 2 that I can make the game much more manageable. Fire Fist it's about even with Fire Fist just because we pace the game at about equal length, and also it's easier to shut down Fire Fist than it is to shut down me because like I hit their Tenki with MST, or if I drop Macrocosmos, then they kind of can't do anything. Whereas if you stop something I do, I might come back next turn with something else. Against Dino Rabbit is a laughably easy matchup because they can match me with back row and they can match me with like control and power, but they cannot match me with consistency. If I stop what Dino Rabbit is doing, they're done. If they stop what I'm doing, I bring back something else next turn. Dino Rabbit is a stupid easy matchup. Especially because game 2 and game 3 I'm going to side out macro because I don't need those against them. And then Windup, the one matchup I really hate is Windup. That is a horrendously bad matchup because they just grind throughout the whole game with their rabbits and the factories, and they just spit out so much advantage that I can't deal with all of it. So Windup's the one matchup I'm afraid of, and honestly is probably if I was to decide to run Windup instead of Dino Rabbit, it's just because I'd probably be afraid of running into so many Windups uh, at regional, but we'll see how it goes. And then, as for the rogue decks, 6 Sam I'm not really worried about because, like Rabbit, if I stop what they're doing, then they're dead. Chaos Agent is eh. If they get Christia, then I'm in a bit of a problem, but all I have to do is hit it with one of the macro cards. Chaos Dragon, I drop Macrocosmos and they lose, but at the same time, Chaos Dragon has an inherently good matchup against Rabbit-based decks like Dino Rabbit just because they can drop big monsters that Rabbit just can't stop all of them. I don't know how it'll work for me. And also Torrential and Mirror Force and the Solemn Reed don't really do anything to them, so that makes a lot of my back row actually moot against them. So I don't know how Chaos Dragon will turn out. But Chaos Dragon is also hurt by its own consistency. If Dark World derps against me game 1, then fine, I sided everything game 2. I'm like, okay, Banishers, Soul Drains, just like everything against them. And they'll lose right there. So that's really how it turns out with the deck. It's a really good matchup. Man, that still ran like a really long video. At least I got the deck list out in the first 5 minutes and then spent the next 20 explaining how it works. So yeah, thanks for watching. We'll see how it turns out, and I'll be at the Frederick, Maryland Regional on the 24th probably. Hoping to top with either this or Wind Up. I honestly think I can get it this time. If not, then whatever. Maybe next time. So yeah, thanks for watching. See you next time on YouTube. Deuces.